agenda. I'd like to call the October 19th, 2015 pre-council meeting to order. Kristen?
Start with roll call. Mayor Odekirk.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Girl.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilman McFarland.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Quinlan.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
First on the agenda is a proclamation, United Nations Day, October 24th, 2015.
Okay, Zonta ladies, let's get up. Round, gather round. Sure. You can come over here too. I put deodorant on. All right, we have everybody? Okay. Proclamation from Mayor Bob Odekirk. Whereas the world continues to seek the road of peace and international cooperation through the United Nations, the United Nations is a unique organization of independent countries that have voluntarily joined together to work for world peace and economic and social progress. And this is the foremost organization in the world working for women's rights and the advancement of women. Whereas the United States' support of and leadership in the United Nations is essential to successfully achieving the goals and objectives of the world organizations. All citizens of the United States and throughout the world are encouraged to observe the birthday of the United Nations on October 24th, 2015. Now, therefore, I, Robert Odekirk, Mayor of the City of Joliet, Illinois, on behalf of the Joliet City Council, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2015 as United Nations Day in the City of Joliet in recognition of the commitment of the United Nations, Zonta International, and the Zonta Club of Joliet to the advancement of the status of women internationally, nationally, and in the Joliet area. And it is signed by Mayor Robert Odekirk. And Pam Hunty would like to say a few words. You're the president?
No, I am not the president.
Oh.
Here is our president.
Okay.
But I am the.
Well,
chair-
anybody can speak,
Okay,
so you go
great.
right ahead.
Yes, I'm the.
There's an open mic here at this point.
Great.
Lots of jokes.
Just very briefly, I'd like to say a couple of words thanking all of you. We're very pleased to be here today, my colleagues and I. As was mentioned, Saturday is UN Day. It was established in 1945 and has really worked in so many different sectors throughout the world to improve quality of life. Just a bit about our Zonta organization. It is a global organization of professional women. There's more than 30,000 women who are part of it throughout the world. It's active in 167 countries. So we in Joliet are part of a much larger group of women who are concerned about helping those in not only local situations, but also international situations. We partner with the UN and its different agencies. I'm sure we've heard of UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund, UNFPA, United Nations Fund for Population Activities, UNESCO, the Educational Sector Organization, etc. This year, we're presently working with the UN, who is the implementer. We are here in the United States, but the UN has these agencies throughout the world, and they are the ones who implement the various projects. We have a series of international service programs, and I'm only going to mention the three major ones, but this is what Zonta is working with. First of all, UNICEF is working in Rwanda on a project entitled The Elimination of Pediatric HIV Infections, also preventing domestic and gender-based violence. So that is in the social aspect of Rwandan society, and then also in the health sector. Secondly, UNFPA with Zanta is working in Liberia on a project for the elimination of obstetric fistula, which is caused by prolonged labor, along with the reduction of maternal and newborn mortality. Also, UNFPA, the Fund for Population Activities, is working in Niger, where there are many child marriages. So here there's a project on delaying early marriage and early pregnancy. There are also ones in education that Zanta is helping in Vietnam, which deal with gender-responsive schools. Lastly, UN Women, which is also an agency of the UN, is active in a project where Zanta is very much involved called Voices Against Violence. This is going on in 12 countries in South America, Asia, and Africa. So these are just some examples of how Zanta International is linked with the UN, and the UN in these different countries is then implementing these programs. We're an NGO, a non-government organization. The UN coordinates with a lot of small NGOs, non-government organizations in these various countries. So we're very happy to be here today, and please, on Saturday, remember that it's UN Day, and thank you again.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to congratulate these ladies. They are the best. When you are talking about improving the quality of life for women, and I know what you do here locally, and I read about you all the time in the international endeavors that you are involved in. So thank you so much for your work, your dedication to the improvement of the quality of life for women all over. Thank you so much for what you do.
Next, any citizens to be heard on agenda items?
Anyone need to speak on an item on the agenda for tomorrow night? Step forward, please. Name and address, sir.
Yeah, my name's Joe Fabre. I live at 314 Earl Avenue, and I'm rising in front of the city council here in opposition to the cell tower that's going to be erected, supposedly going to be erected around by the old Reedwood School. And the reason why I'm opposing this here cell tower here is numerous reasons. We believe that, once they put it up, we know it's going to supposedly could be fencing around it and everything else. But I don't believe it's very conducive to be put in a neighborhood area in that. Cell towers, we see them all along the highways and that, and I believe this tower should be placed somewhere else, not in the residential areas as it's being proposed and voted on right now, okay, to be put there in that. The house values, as we know, in this area here have been depleting in that. And I believe only this here cell tower coming up there is only going to be another hindrance on people trying to sell their home and getting a fair price for their home in that. This cell tower, I think, is going to probably affect the values of home anywhere from 2 to 10 to 20%, okay? It's a guess number. It's a number that I'm guessing at, but I don't believe it's very conducive to be put into the neighborhood area. If you drive around, you see most of your cell towers off the interstates and that, you don't see them in neighborhoods in that, okay, where kids are playing around, especially if we have a playground right next to where they want to put this here cell tower. I understand, I heard that they're going to spend money to maybe build the playground a little bit better, but that's the issue. That is, the kids are still going to be playing there. Kids, as we know, kids are going to be involved. They're going to try different things. When I was young, I tried all different things, trying to do things. Got in trouble a lot of times, but it happens. That's part of life. That's where you live and you learn to grow up and all of that. But I'm here asking this city council here that when it does come to vote, that they vote it down. If the city council believes that it should be erected, then I believe they should vote it and put it in their own neighborhood, not in my neighborhood and that. And that's where it should go, in their neighborhood, not mine, if they're the ones that are going to be voting for it and all of that. So again, I would just encourage you, when it comes up to vote, that you vote this here down for this cell tower. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, I live at 317 South Reed. I live directly alongside of the school. I can't figure out why you would ever want to let a cell tower go in a school, especially in a residential neighborhood. It just boggles my mind to figure that this is going to be put in a neighborhood, and especially where the school is located. I just can't figure out why you would even think about letting them put this tower up in that location. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see you people vote it down. That's my preference. And like I say, I live right next to the school, 317 South Reed. And I'd appreciate it very much if you would not allow this to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I believe the item they're speaking about is on the November 3rd agenda, not on this evening's agenda.
Did you hear that? The vote isn't tomorrow, it's on November 3rd, council meeting?
We were told it was on the board.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
was this remanded back to public service, or did it, wasn't?
We tabled it last
It was
week.
tabled so Reedswood could have another meeting, the Reedswood
Right, can you have
neighborhoods.
some neighborhood meetings and that sort of thing? Okay.
Do they have their
Do
meeting?
they have any first? Or
Oh,
no,
21st.
21st.
I'm sorry, because I was here for the last time, and it said table.
Can you approach the mic? Name and address, please.
Kim Gilbert, 322 O'Neill Street. Just that it was said that it would be tabled for 2 weeks, so I also thought that it would come up today also. I didn't know that it was going back to the Reedswood Association and then postponed for like another 4 weeks. So, because I know there were some people, I think on this side, saying like it can't go any further than 2 weeks. So that's why I was also here.
Mayor,
Yes.
there's a community meeting at UCP this Thursday at 6:30. I believe it's the school or the cell tower company is going to do a presentation to the neighborhood. It's 6:30 on the 22nd. The council got an email on it this afternoon.
In the gymnasium.
Question, Mayor?
Yes.
Were all the neighbors notified of this meeting? Because I know last time, there was folks here that said they didn't even know about a neighborhood meeting.
I doubt, I don't think the neighborhood organization notifies all the neighbors. I think they post signs like other neighborhood organizations do.
Can we,
Yes, ma'am.
So I actually, when I was here last time, I got the phone number of the head of the homeowner or the neighborhood association. And I called him to ask because I've lived in the community for 3 years and I didn't know about these meetings and I live right next to the school. And he said to just look for the signs in the parkway. And I, again, still haven't noticed them. And I said, well, how do I get the word, like, how do I know? And he said, well, once you're a member and you attend the meetings, then you can get selected to like the Facebook page and like the website and updates. But so unless, he said, he specifically said, unless you're a member, then you don't get like those notifications. So I'm not really sure how many people in the community still are actually going to attend Thursday's meeting.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, my name is Benita Lally, and I live at 230 South Reed. And I've lived there about 20 years, and we've never faced this problem before. And I have noticed that cell phone towers seem to be on the outskirts, or like on Plainfield Road, I've noticed a couple. But I do not think it's a place for a cell phone tower in a neighborhood, and especially at a school. And they have a very nice playground in the back of the school, and I guess that is where they plan on putting it. But I very much ask you to vote it down when it comes up. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joseph Bray, as I indicated before in that. But what really kind kind of disturbed me was, I attended the last meeting that was at the school over there in that, okay? And what they pointed out is that all the things, the benefits that the school is gonna get, they're gonna get paid so much money per month to have this tower there, they're gonna get their playground, you know, improved, some more improvements, and it was just redone a year ago in that. But I don't believe the decision should be made at putting a cell tower there based upon how much money that organization is gonna be getting. Because the people who live in that community are gonna possibly suffer by this, if they go to sell their houses in that, all right? Because I think the house value is gonna go down when you have, people see this big 100-foot cell tower sitting in their backyard. Okay, my in-laws live 3 doors from where this here tower is supposed to be going in and all of that. I mean, I think that's a very important issue. They may benefit by it to some degree. I'm not saying they won't, and you know, I hate to be talking against the school like that because I support it myself. But I mean, I don't believe that should be a criteria to develop for this city council to be voting on, just because they're gonna be getting benefits by that, whether the people who live in that community are gonna be hurt by it as well. Just like to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
With no other comments, we'll defer over to the city manager to discuss the agenda items.
Reviewing our brief agenda for tomorrow night. Under consent, we've got the usual items. Item D is a position vacancy in the police department. We have a known retirement come January, so we're looking for authorization on replacing that person. Looking at Council Memo 548, this is an ordinance requesting a variation to allow conversion of a former art gallery into a real estate office, which is a B1 neighborhood business. We got a few things coming up on screen for you to take a look at. There's a 2-bedroom apartment located on the upper level, and the site's located at the Taylor Street Gateway entrance of the University of St. Francis, and the university supports this project. Also, the Cathedral Area Preservation Association voted to not object to the variation request. Really, the only issue of concern is that 8 off-street parking spaces are required. However, there's only 6 off-street parking spaces on site. However, there is a garage at the rear of the site and 2 additional spaces adjoining the garage, and 3 on-street parking spaces are located in front of the proposed real estate property. So this help bridge the gap between the available and required off-street parking.
Question, Mayor.
Yes.
Jim, so, I mean, those parking spaces count under ordinance? That would be in any situation? If they had 6 up front and 2 in the backyard by the garage, that would be allowable? I'm just trying to think.
No, they are not counted as on-site spaces. However, you know, when you're taking a look at approving these kinds of uses, you do have to keep in mind that, you know, the town is old, and they weren't built to be able to comply to current day zoning requirements. And so it's a consideration that you have to keep in mind when you're considering these approvals, because a lot of our town's old and doesn't have enough parking.
Well, I guess I'm just curious, are we prepared to do the same thing for anybody else moving forward?
Well, it's different
If we are,
for.
then shouldn't we look at our ordinance?
Yeah, well,
Tweak it
each
out.
one's unique, and that's why I pointed out that the Cathedral Area Association didn't have a concern, and University of St. Francis supports it, because they're the nearest neighbors. Moving on, item 549 is an ordinance clarifying title to the previous vacated public right-of-way. Apparently, at the last meeting, a recent meeting, this was application for the Centerpoint Joliet terminal location, and this is just clarifying some of the legal language to correct it before we can effectuate the legal transfer. Apparently, we made a mistake. So you've already approved this item, it's just getting the language, legal language correct. Item 550 is a resolution It's an acquisition of another property down at our East Side Sewer Treatment Plant for the construction of the wet weather treatment facility. Purchase of $80,000 for a property that's lot size is 10,492 square feet at the corner of Lawton and McKinley. As you know, we've already acquired a number of the properties in the area, and there's just a few more to acquire. Item 551 is a motor fuel tax resolution for appropriating additional funds in the amount of $27,739 for the Washington Street over Spring Street Improvement Project. Similarly, item 552 is we're doing Phase 1 engineering and need another motor fuel tax resolution appropriating additional funding, the amount of $38,346 for the Garnsey Avenue over Spring Street Improvement Project. And then we've got a third one, 553, another MFT resolution appropriating an additional $53,840 for the Doris Avenue roadway improvement project. Now, all three of these will be reviewed, appropriating the funds under amendments, change orders, and payments later on in the agenda tomorrow night. Just a couple things to note under bids and contracts. 555, just to give you an idea, when you think about the size of our budget, we purchase approximately 400,000 gallons of unleaded gasoline and 180,000 gallons of diesel fuel each year. And so that's quite a bit of gasoline. It's a good thing we're exempt from state and federal tax. So, but it still comes down with a low bid at $1.84 per gallon of $738,000. So, diesel fuel at $2.45 and $2.04 is $375,000 purchase. And then just a note, item 356 is a purchase for 2 in-ground hoists over at our Fleet Services building. We've only got 3 of them, and 2 of them are inoperable at the time, so we urgently need to purchase these and replace them to get them, the vehicles in service as fast as we can. The rest of the agenda will be reviewed by committees, and unless there are any questions, I've got a request for closed session.
First, we have public comments. Anyone?
Any comments on a non-agenda item? Yes.
Hi, Candace Johnson, St. John's. Most of you probably are annoyed by me by now. I am coming before you today regarding By Park again. Upon going through documents and different paperwork and talking to councilmen and women, I've noticed that the park, it normally gets between $300,000 to $500,000 a year that gets allocated towards the park. At the September 14th council meeting, Mr. Mudron said that there never has been and never will be money for By Park. And Mr. Hawk said that we do not spend any money at By Park. I would like to know if we do not use the full amount of money that is allocated towards the park, where does the rest of that money go? And why hasn't it been used on items at the park, like tree trimming, lighting, stuff like that? Is it sitting in a bank account, or do you use it for other items that you feel are more necessary? If people are complaining now that no one has been taking care of the park, then why haven't they spoke up in the last few years stating that they needed help or assistance with something getting done at the park? I also would like to know, the foundation board is supposed to be the ones who tell you if they need help. They are supposed to be the ones who sit there and tell you what goes on at the park because it is your property. They are technically the landlords at that point. They are supposed to be watching over it for you. At the September 14th meeting, Mr. Vera stated that the Park Foundation members have told him that things have been going into less than adequate condition regarding the roofing, regarding lightings for the stage, stuff like that. I would like to know why haven't they bothered to tell you? You are supposed to be the ones that they talk to, that they confide in when something needs to get fixed. And I would like to know if they're going to be held accountable if you guys do keep the park, because something like that is important, and they are supposed to be able to tell you if something needs to get fixed. You have money to fix it, supposedly, that you set aside every year. I just feel that something should be more done about the situation. Thank you.
Could you go over the
Mayor.
finances?
Certainly. I guess maybe there was a little confusion in what I was saying. What our budget pays for are the employees down there for the property maintenance, and some of the capital improvements have been shared with the city by the Park Foundation. But the Park Foundation pays for all of the programming that goes on down there, all of the events that they have. Now, we do have some revenue from some of the theatrical groups that rent the facility that provides income to the property as well as to the foundation so that they can pay for some of the other events that are there. And we do rely on feedback from the board of the foundation because they keep a closer eye on the facilities and know what kind of feedback they get from the users, and work closely with them in terms of programming in future years.
Your Honor,
Yes.
just one question. On by Park, in terms of, and you have to break it down for me because I'm new to the table. And so when the city allocates money,
Thank you.
okay, when the city allocates money for By Park on our budget line, and I believe the young lady, Ms. Johnson, just asked a question as to how much of that money is dedicated to the park. I know that Councilman Mudron said in his statement that no money had been allocated or used in the park. So what I'm trying to get the same answer, I think, is when that money is allocated to the park, we don't use it for one reason or the other. What happens?
At the end of every fiscal year, in every department budget except our enterprise funds like water and sewer, any surplus funds return to the general fund, and that goes to our fund balance, which is in essence carried forward into the next fiscal year. So we have 4 positions down there, and one of them retired, so halfway through the year. So in all likelihood, we aren't going to spend the full amount that City Council allocated for the By Park budget, and so that amount will again go back into the general fund at the end of the fiscal year for reallocation into next year's budget.
Into next year's.
I asked a question regarding that. If you're stating that because you won't use all the money because there's no manager currently, why don't you use that money towards doing repairs? You said that part of the money from the city of Joliet goes towards maintenance. Obviously, there's capital funds for major improvements, major changes, but daily maintenance is supposed to be your part of the money allocated to it. So if you have extra money, why don't you go down there, not you personally, obviously, but someone from the city and say, well, look, it needs this done or it needs that done. Why don't we put that money towards it instead of just putting it back into a fund?
Well, that can be true in every department. Just because they haven't used all of their funds on personnel doesn't mean they necessarily can use it in another area of their budget. If we didn't have 10 police officers, that doesn't mean, because it takes a long time to hire police officers, that doesn't mean necessarily that they can go out and buy 15 new police cars. That's a policy-making decision by the City Council, recommendation from my office, but each department's looked at individually.
Correct, but I understand that.
There's a time limit. You've made your comments. You asked some questions and they answered them. Anyone else?
Mayor, I have
Yes.
Go, you first.
I have one thing on one of the agenda, actually, on one of the agenda items, with respect to memo 563-15, which was the water main improvements over there on Essington Road. I don't have any issue with respect to the payments, but I see these are final payments that are going on, and I know this is just phase 1. When do you expect, or when do we anticipate phase 2 getting started?
I'll have to defer to Jim Egan to answer that.
We're looking at the next phase of that work over there to be the sewer construction. That'll eliminate the lift station and make a sewer, gravity sewer from where the lift station is located down to Jefferson and Humboldt.
Right.
We're looking at a schedule to advertise that over the winter and construct that in spring of 2016.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Mayor?
Yes.
I just have a comment. I was going to wait, but I think this needs to be addressed now. I received an email from the Midland Manor Townhome Association regarding IDOT and the truck repairs on I-80. They live at the behind the 1310 mile marker, and they were doing road repairs, and the noise level was unbearable, and they're saying that their quality of life is being compromised. And they have tried to contact IDOT to no avail, no answer. So as I explained to them, you need to contact your Senator and Representative Larry Walsh and Pat McGuire. But in the meantime, I thought maybe we could put some pressure on IDOT and see what we can do for our residents. And if we could have a report back tomorrow, because they're just ignoring the residents. So I thought maybe we could do something as a city. Thank you.
Check on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
One thing. Councilwoman Quinlan, thank you for bringing that up. That was a topic I was going to bring up. I would like to request if we could possibly for next month, if we could request Secretary Blankenhorn to come to our next council meeting. I feel there's a lot of issues regarding IDOT that are not being answered here locally in our city of Joliet. Myself and Councilman Morris have worked with our state representative and state senator on a couple issues at I-80 and Richard Street in terms of cleanliness of the bypass, or say the overpass, areas that they maintain and own that were overgrown, sidewalks that are gone, that students continually walk to get to school there. Our staff went ahead and cleaned up the area to make it safe for our students. The other issue that I brought up two meetings ago that was evidently, I believe you sent us an email, Mr. Hack, with an update, or Mr. Trisna, is the bridge, the Jefferson Street Bridge. And it seems that we're not getting a true answer. Again, it's a lot of political rhetoric. We don't know if it's going to be done. It is going to be done. The mayor requested that the Cass Street Bridge be two-way. We get maybe, maybe not, no, yes. I would like to have somebody with authority down here to answer these questions. We are crippling downtown Joliet by that bridge being out. We need to know a timeline. We need to have an alternative route for our folks to come downtown, not only to our businesses, the courthouse, but we have an economic engine that supports the state of Illinois called Harrah's Casino. And we continue to sit back and get no answers from the state of Illinois, and I'm fed up with it. And if we continue to invest money in downtown Joliet like we are, and our commitment, putting money where our mouth is, to redo the courthouse, and the other Camaros report that's going to be coming up, we need cooperation from the state of Illinois, and ideally IDOT. So I would ask Mayor or the staff, I would like Secretary Blankenhorn to come down here and start discussing these issues. We have issues out by Route 6 with Silver Cross Hospital that we've been talking about with the roadways. I think Councilwoman Quinlan, you've brought it up many times.
I have to say, it's fixed. It's
Amen.
wonderful.
But I've got a laundry list. But I would like to see somebody from IDOT come here and respond. Again, the mayor's repeatedly request to try to do something with Cass Street Bridge, and nobody's listening. So I'm making a plea to get some kind of answer and a timeline. How do we not know when the bridge is going to be completed, and painting and repairs? And then the timeline of when are they going to start shutting down each of the bridges for the high fiber optic for the bridge tenders to be relocated. Don't forget, folks, each bridge is going to be closed down for another 3 months individually. I mean, we can't be in limbo here. We need some definite answers if possible.
Well, I can share with you that project is in limbo. As long as there's not a budget at the state level, that is on the shelf and continues to get pushed back in the IDOT priority list.
I can answer. Regarding Jefferson Street Bridge, I was with Chamber of Commerce members and Senator Pat McGuire. We all collectively made a call to IDOT during the summer trying to get Cass Street to be a two-way bridge as they've done in the past. The answer we got from IDOT was that they didn't anticipate Jefferson Street would be closed down long enough to justify that. Our answer is that every time a bridge gets shut down, there's always unexpected delays because they find something's missing or something's wrong, which apparently is exactly what happened here. Are we at liberty to say what the plan is with Jefferson Street, Jim?
Sure.
Okay, I guess the understanding is that they are going to open it back up very shortly and then close it down again in the spring to finish the painting, because apparently they will not be done with the painting before the weather turns. So I think in the spring we'll have to address it again about making Cass Street a two-way street if they're going to do that. I can tell you, being a downtown business owner, I hate the bridges being out too. It does affect business. I know Harrah's, their bottom line is affected. I know other businesses downtown have complained about it. It's an ongoing issue. I could tell you when I was in Washington last week and when we met with all our individual representatives and senators, transportation was a major issue that we brought up, and we specifically spoke about the downtown bridges and maybe federal dollars being available to try to reconfigure or address the issue we have with the bridges. Our U.S. Senate recently passed a transportation bill for the first time in years. It extends it out 3 years. It's going to the House of Representatives. We spoke with all our local representatives and told them how important we thought that bill was, and talked about not only the bridges downtown, but the Humboldt Street Bridge and the issue with the truck traffic on I-80 and I-55. So we are having those conversations. Myself and Jim Hock went up to Oak Brook a couple months ago and met with Secretary Blankenhorn and his staff. I've had other meetings down at Centerpoint with IDOT staff. I'm sure if we called out, someone from IDOT would come to our city council. I would be leery, though, about publicly trying to humiliate them when we're, on one hand, are trying to work with them on other projects. I think answer questions would be fair, but I wouldn't want the tenor to be negative towards these people when we're asking for their help in other parts of the city.
No, and I agree. I don't want it to be negative. I just would like some answers. I mean, how many of you guys have went over the Ruby Street Bridge, how bad it is? I mean, your whole front end acts like it's going to fall out. I met with Mr. Trisna over there over by St. Mary's. I mean, all those entry points, which are the state, are horrible. And I think the thing is we need to get the IDOT officials here to see the condition. I think sometimes these folks don't really see firsthand the conditions of these roadways. And I know we're in a budget impasse, but I feel something needs to be done, whether or not we put a laundry list of items and submit it to them of things we like. But Mayor, as you mentioned, which I think is great, at least we know that the bridge is going to be open and then closed back. But can we now petition them to get a yes or no for Cass Street? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Can we do it now than to wait for the bridge to go up and then ask if we know it's going to be shut again?
That's the plan.
Thank you.
Our motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition or conveyance, pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned.
So moved.
Second?
Been motioned and seconded. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudron.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinlan.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Sorry?